Madam Mayor, we are recording here live on YouTube. You can begin whenever you wish.
Okay, let's get started, shall we? Welcome, everyone. It's so great to see a chambers full of people. We also have people joining us online at various points in the meeting as well. Before we begin, the meeting is being, just to remind you, the meeting is being live streamed on the Township's YouTube channel. We'll be there in perpetuity. And I will begin by calling the roll. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Present.
Councilor Watt.
Present.
Councilor Report.
Present.
Councilor Johnston.
Present.
And myself, Heather Watson. And we have our acting clerk, Martina Chait-Hartwig, present, CIO, Elena Arthurs, interim treasurer, Paul Creamer, planner, Christina Coulter,
Present.
manager of public works, Jake Condon, and our acting temporary CBO, Don Holloman. Hello and welcome. So with quorum in attendance, I will now call the meeting to order. And we'll begin with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Michi-Sagig Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. And if we could just hold please for a moment of silence. Okay, so we have the agenda before us for today's regular council meeting, a full one at that. It's been circulated ahead of time. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing nothing, could I get an adoption of our agenda today? Councilor Report, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. All in favor, and that motion carries. On to item 6 with 2 sets of minutes. Any questions? Concerns, otherwise just a motion to approve the local report. Councilor Watt, all in favor, and that too carries. On to our consent agenda, we just have 2 items. Is there anything here that either or any member of council wants to hold for discussion? Seeing nothing, a motion to receive those. Councilor Report, Councilor Johnston, all in favor, and that carries. Okay, before we get started with all of the heavy business of the council, the important decisions that we have a presentation to make. And I would invite Deputy Mayor Nelson up to the lectern with me. Shall we? So Deputy Mayor Nelson has
Sure.
maybe a photographer. So Deputy Mayor Nelson is being recognized from the Good Roads Association. Our manager of public works, Jake Condon, had nominated Deputy Mayor Nelson for congratulating for his 39 years of public service in roads. It's an amazing accomplishment, quite truthfully. So we have a letter and a wonderful plaque to present to you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, we get a picture of this.
Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
You're
It's a halo, but not quite.
Still there.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's a tattoo.
Congratulations.
The award, the last award was from my AWARS Association for road supervisors. This is from the Ontario Good Roads. And anyways, it's been a pleasure and honor, and it's very humbling to serve the people, and I continue to serve the people in my new role. And I look forward to serving the people as best I can in the years to come. So anyways, it's a great honor to receive this award. So thanks everybody. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, on to the less celebratory stuff. We have a meeting, a public meeting under the Planning Act. So this is item 8.2 on the agenda. And this is file R0323, and I'll hand it over. No, we've got an open meeting. Thank you. Councilor Watt, motion to open meeting, seconded by Councilor Johnston, all in favor. That motion approves. Now I'll turn it over to Ms. Coulter for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. This is the public meeting for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment, file number R-03-23. Council has before them report planning 2023-21 with the following recommendation. That report planning 2023-21 dated June 20th, 2023 regarding zoning bylaw amendment file R-03-23 be received, and that council receive all comments related to zoning bylaw amendment file R-0323, and that the bylaw to enact the amendment be passed at the appropriate time in the meeting. Just as a brief background, the purpose of the attached draft zoning bylaw amendment is to clarify a previous bylaw of the township, being bylaw number 2018-60. And that introduced provisions for second dwelling units in the township. So this amendment will update applicable general provisions, the definitions and zones which currently regulate second dwelling units in the township. The draft bylaw presented to council varies slightly from the draft bylaw that was posted with the notice of public meeting. So the text hasn't changed, but we have added some headings to the bylaw to provide more clarity and ease of applicability. Notice of the public meeting was given on May 30th by ordinary mail and or email to all prescribed public bodies and to every person and public body that provided a written request to receive notice. Notice of the public meeting was also published in the Peterborough This Week and the Lakefield Herald, and it was posted on the township website. The giving of notice complies with the regulations of the Planning Act. The following comments were received, and Bridge Gas had no objections. The Ministry of Transportation had no concerns, and Bell Canada had no comments or concerns. So additional information regarding the bylaw was requested by 2 members of the public. We did provide some additional information in the form of a link to the planning report, as well as the mock-up that council has before them of what the changes would look like in the zoning bylaw, the comprehensive zoning bylaw. There were no other comments received from members of the public. As proposed, the draft bylaw is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the growth plan and the official plan. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Mayor, for any questions from the public or council.
Thank you, Ms. Coulter. So are there any, is there anyone present who wants to comment on the application or against this? No comments from the gallery, anything from council? Seeing nothing. Any staff agents? This isn't. We've got staff. So,
I'll make a motion to close it.
thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Watt, you'll second that. All in favor? And that carries. So we do need a motion now to receive Ms. Coulter's report.
I'll make that motion.
Deputy Mayor Nelson, thank you. Second by Councilor Report, all in favor? That also carries. And if we'd like, perhaps we can move item 12.1 up on the agenda and pass the bylaw around that as well, with the council's agreement to make a change in agenda. Deputy Mayor Nelson, you'll move.
Yes, I'll move that.
Councilor Report, all in favor? And that to carries. Okay, so on to item 8.3. We have another public meeting under the Planning Act, and we need a motion. I think we're welcoming Mayor Lamshead here, is that correct? He is joining us via Zoom. Via Zoom? All right, great. Assuming you can hear us fine, okay? So we will be looking for a motion to open the public meeting on this item. Mayor Nelson, second by Councilor Report, all in favor, and that carries. And who are we getting to speak on this? Ms. Coulter?
Me first,
Thank
yes. Okay, so thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. This is the public meeting for a proposed official plan amendment, file number 15 OP-21010, and zoning bylaw amendment, file number R-08-21. Council has before them report planning 2023-22 with the recommendations. These are long, so bear with me. That report planning 2023-22 dated June 20th, 2023 regarding OPA file number 15 OP-21010 and ZBA file number R-08-21 Plan C be received, and that council received all comments related to the OPA and the zoning bylaw, and that council advised the County of Peterborough that the Township of Douro-Dummer supports proposed official plan amendment number 15 OP-21010, which represents amendment number 70 to the County of Peterborough official plan as described in the document prepared by the county and attached to this report, and that the draft bylaw be revised as presented, and that the requirement for approval of the zoning bylaw shall be a draft plan condition. The approval authority is to be advised in writing by the Township of Douro-Dummer that the property has been rezoned with appropriate restrictions with the holding provision, if applicable, for the lands within the subdivision. And finally, that the developer owner shall agree in the subdivision agreement that minor modifications to the plan of subdivision may be necessary to ensure compliance with the implementing zoning bylaw and the service standards for the Township of Douro-Dummer, which may result in the reduction of the number of lots or their reconfiguration. To give council and the public a brief overview of the applications, the owner's planning consultant, Innovative Planning Solutions, submitted an application for a 25-lot residential plan of subdivision, along with an application for an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. The plan of subdivision and OPA were submitted to the County of Peterborough. The zoning bylaw amendment was submitted to the Township. The applications were deemed complete by both the county and Township on June 7th, 2021. Given the recent changes to the Planning Act, there is no longer a requirement to hold a public meeting for plans of subdivision. However, we are still required to hold a public meeting for the official plan and zoning bylaw. We will provide council with a report at a later date regarding the Township's proposed draft plan conditions for the plan of subdivision. So notice of the public meeting was provided by ordinary mail to every owner of land within 120 meters of the subject lands on May 29th, 2023. The notice was also published in the Peterborough this week, and 2 notices were posted on the subject property on the County Road 4 frontage between civic address numbers 200 and 202, and to the entrance of the subject property located between civic addresses 158 and 166 County Road 4. The prescribed persons and public bodies were provided notice via email and regular mail on May 29th, and the notice is available on both the county and township websites. So the notice circulation does comply with the requirements of the Planning Act. Senior staff for the township were circulated for comment, and comments were received from the fire chief requesting that it be confirmed that the turning circle in the cul-de-sac meet building code requirements. The fire chief also noted that there is no public dry hydrant within 5 kilometers of the fire station for this area. So water supply for fire protection for a single dwelling and exposure protection would be required. Clarification was also requested as to whether the storm retention pond for the subdivision would be converted to a fire protection water supply, or the subdivision would need a tank. So these comments from the fire chief were forwarded to the township's peer reviewer for a response. The manager of public works met with DM Wills, the peer reviewer for the township, to develop standards for new township roads within rural subdivisions. And items to be included for new municipal road construction include a wider platform for active transportation, driveway aprons to be paved, streetlights to be included, and to identify areas for snow clearing and storage at cul-de-sac. So DM Wills is in the process of compiling these requirements for the township, and once complete, the staff will provide them to the applicant for consideration. Just to also to highlight, the access to the subdivision is proposed from an existing entrance, which is not part of the subject property. So the existing entrance belongs to the owners of 160 County Road 4, and it provides access to 3 existing developed properties. The intent is to convey that access to the subdivision lands and eventually to the township as a municipal road, and it will be brought up to municipal road standards. After the writing of this report, the chief building official did provide some comments, and I'm going to try to summarize them regarding the septic systems on the proposed subdivision. The clearance listed on the plans are in accordance with the Ontario Building Code. However, the township does require a minimum 15 meter setback from the property line abutting a road. The requirement may have an effect on the septic placement on lots 1 through 13. But this requirement is imposed on the tank and dispersal pipe. Therefore, the contact area of the septic may be located within the 15 meter setback, but it may be suitable, but they just wanted to note that may be a requirement on the plans. So we will provide those comments through to the applicant and the agent. And any of those requirements will also form part of the conditions of draft plan approval for the plan of subdivision. So there were no other comments received from senior staff. 2 members of the public provided comments and or did request to be notified of at the time of complete application. But we did not receive anything regarding the notice of public meeting, with the exception of this morning. We did have comments and email from the owner of 174 County Road 4, who had objections to the application, and their opposition related to their house not being on the map, nor the houses of some of her neighbors. They also had additional concerns related to the location of the right-of-way to the property, and an issue with the lawyer and a dispute of her lot line abutting this property. So the owner was going to try to be here either in person or virtually tonight in the event that they wanted, but I'm not sure. For the 2 members of the public that did reach out at the notice of complete application, we also did provide them notice of this public meeting, as well as a link to tonight's meeting in case that they wanted additional comments. So in attendance tonight, we do have Keziah Holden, who's the senior planner for the county of Peterborough. We have Terry Lambshead, who's the mayor of Trent Lake, the county council public hearing representative on planning matters. We have James Hunter from Innovative Planning Solutions, who's the agent for the application. And I'm not sure if we have Jerry here, Jerry's here, who's the applicant and the owner. James has a short presentation prepared that's going to outline the proposal and the applications. And then following James, Keziah will provide you with a brief overview of the application process, including any peer review of the supporting documents and any comments received to date. And they'll both be available should there be any questions from council or members of the public. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Mayor, for any questions from members of the public and the presentations from James and then Keziah.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Coulter. Before we dig in, any questions from council before we get Mr. Hunter to do his presentation at this point? Nope. Seeing nothing. Mr. Hunter, welcome. And before you get started, I also just want to say formally welcome to Mayor Lambshead, who's joining us on behalf of County Council. Welcome to the Chambers, sir. Mr. Hunter, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening, council, staff, and those in attendance tonight. My name is James Hunter, and I'm associate with Innovative Planning Solutions. Our office is located in Barrie, so it's a bit of a drive, so we're pleased to be here tonight virtually. Tonight, we're considering a application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment to support a draft plan application for 162 County Road 4. Next slide, please. The slide up here shows the subject lands, which is located at 162 County Road 4. The subject lands are highlighted with the red outline shown on the slide. It includes a site area of 28.6 hectares, which is approximately 70 acres, and it has existing frontage along County Road 4. There is an existing site access off County Road 4 through a common driveway, which is highlighted with an arrow to the northwest. The slide is provided through a common driveway with the 160 property that exists there today. The lands are currently utilized for residential uses with an existing detached dwelling, as well as rural and agricultural land uses. And this is located at the northern boundary of the Donwood Hamlet, which is shown there with the yellow. Next slide, please. So the proposed development is a residential draft plan for 25 residential lots. This is subject to the development of single detached dwellings in the future. The development will be serviced by individual well and septic systems, with each lot including range of frontages from 32 to 84 meters, so quite a range, and lot areas in the range of 0.29 to 1.5 hectares, so a good variety of lot sizes for the development. So we're looking at the Hamlet residential zone, which would be the desired zone for this residential development. And that requests just over 1,800 meters squared and 30 meters of frontage. So I just want to highlight that we do exceed those requirements. Ultimately, what we're showing on this slide is the residential uses in a kind of yellow overlay. But ultimately, the draft plan is divided into the desired blocks lots, which includes the 25 residential lots, a stormwater management block, environmental and open space lands, rural agricultural, as well as a municipal road, which is a 20-meter right of way. And I'll highlight that in the next slide. So this provides a closer look at the draft plan, and it's looking at it from a context of block design. So your access into the property is provided by 20-meter right of way, which we're calling Street A, and that connects to County Road 4, and that's highlighted at the bottom, the south, in a red hatch. Blocks 1 to 25 are the yellow residential blocks, highlighting the lots through there. Block 26 is the retained stormwater management block. So the intent of that block is to capture and convey runoff of the proposed stormwater management facility prior to discharging to the municipal ditch along County Road 4. And then block 27 and block 28 are retained in a natural state. So block 27 is the one that you're seeing farthest to the north, and that's an environmental trade area, including a 30-meter setback, which is established to the technical studies. And block 28 is what you're seeing located centrally in the middle, and that's going to retain the existing wetland, also with a 30-meter setback to any development. And then the orange block that you're seeing is 29, and that's the intent to preserve the rural and agricultural land uses and existing conditions. Next slide, please. So to support the draft plan of subdivision, we're seeking an official plan amendment, as the lands are currently designated rural and industrial by the official plan. So ultimately, the big ticket item is to get the lands into the Hamlet boundary of Donwood. So that would include the lands that are highlighted with a black hatched outline. So not the entire property is going to be included in the Hamlet, just the residential lands, along with the stormwater management facility for the development. So ultimately, the OPA will amend the official plan to designate the lands to 3 different designations. Rural is going to be that's your yellow that you're seeing there retained. Hamlet is your red, which follows the residential uses, and then your environmental constraint is the green. The white hatch is the rural lands that are going to be retained. Next slide, please. To support the draft plan application, we're also seeking a zoning bylaw amendment. The subject lands are currently zoned rural, which is the RU zone by the bylaw. So to permit a residential development, we're seeking a land use or a zoning use into a residential zone. So ultimately, what we're intending to rezone the lands to are 4 different zones. Similar to the official plan amendment, all residential uses will be in the Hamlet residential HR zone. We have an environmental conservation zone, which is the EC zone, to protect all those existing uses. And then we have 2 special districts. So the 254 is the stormwater management block, and we have 171, which is to retain existing rural lands. So the 4 different zones are illustrated on the slide, and the dark gray is what you're seeing as the residential uses. As well as the residential uses that we're seeking through the draft plan. It does meet all the requirements of the HR zone. Next slide, please. With the applications, it's been quite a bit of time working through some technical comments and completing the technical studies to support the draft plan application. So I just want to highlight a few of the key studies that we've worked on to date. The planning justification report, draft plan, and amendment documents have been provided by IPS. We have done legal and topographic surveys, which includes boundary surveys and other surveys to support the development. Stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessments were completed by Urban Heritage, and these have been cleared and entered by the ministry. There's preliminary stormwater management reports that are completed by WMI Engineering, and detailed design is deferred to the draft plan stage. That also includes the civil engineering drawing set. So we do have a pending fourth submission coming back to the municipality and the county, and that will address all of the engineering comments to date. Environmental impact study has been done by Cambium, and so ultimately all the recommendations of the EIS has been incorporated into our draft plan. And ORCA, which is the Conservation Authority, has reviewed, and we believe we've addressed all the comments that they have provided to date. Hydrogeological assessment has been completed by E&D Wilson and Associates, and this information is used to support the civil engineering. As well as there's a flood hazard assessment that WMI has completed. This supports the environmental lands and preserving them in a natural state. And then a traffic impact study was completed by JD Engineering, and there's no traffic concerns or comments raised to date. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the application that we're ultimately seeking is a draft plan to create 25 residential lots. Key considerations, including environmental features, site grading services, and stormwater management, have been evaluated and addressed by our applications. So the draft plan application is the higher application to create the desired lots and blocks. However, before we proceed with draft plan applications, an official plan amendment is required to first expand the hamlet area boundary. And then second, the next part is to redesignate the lands from the rural and industrial designations to the rural hamlet and environmental constraint designations. And then also mirroring the official plan amendment, the zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the lands from rural, which is the RU zone, to hamlet residential, environmental conservation, and then to the 2 special district zones. These subject lands do possess the key foundational elements to support limited residential growth and support the proposed expansion of a minor rounding out of the hamlet area. So this is supported by all levels of policy and considered sustainable development. So collectively, we do believe that the applications would provide logical and sustainable phasing to Donwood. And I believe that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hunter. And moving on, do we have Ms. Holden? Because you're going to, yes, please, welcome.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Christina and James have provided a pretty thorough overview, so I'll try to keep my duplication of information to a minimum. So my name is Clyde Holden. I'm the senior planner for the county of Peterborough. The county is in receipt of an application for an official plan amendment, which is located on land at 162 County Road 4. The county of Peterborough is the approval authority for official plan amendments. And Planning Act requirements. Notice was provided to all public agencies and circulated to adjacent property owners. As Christina mentioned, it was also posted on the property and provided.
I'm sorry to interrupt. If you could speak up a little bit louder, just so we can get the mics to pick you up as well.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you.
So notice was also provided in Peterborough this week and has been posted on both the county and the township websites with a copy of the draft amendment together with all supporting studies and the draft plan. To anybody in attendance tonight or listening online, if anybody wishes to receive the notice of decision, you need to submit a request in writing to the county in order to receive that. The subject lands are currently designated rural and industrial. The purpose of the official plan amendment is to change the designation to hamlet, rural, and environmental constraint. The effect of the amendment will expand the hamlet of Donwood by approximately 13.9 hectares, or if you prefer acres, it's about 34.3 acres. This change is intended to facilitate a related plan of subdivision application. So as James has mentioned, the subdivision proposes 25 residential blocks with additional blocks for a new internal roadway and stormwater management. And existing environmental features on the site have been recognized on the plan and will be designated through the OPA and zone through the related zoning bylaw amendment for their protection. We would note that the existing entrance to the subdivision lands is identified on a separate art plan and belongs to a property at 160 County Road 4. So this entrance currently provides access to 3 residential properties identified as 160, 162, and 164 County Road 4. So this is an item that needs to be addressed as part of the approvals process, since the point of access to the subdivision is currently owned by a different property owner. We have received a number of studies submitted in support of the applications. Those include a planning justification report, preliminary stormwater management report, flood hazard assessment, environmental impact study, traffic impact study, hydrogeological assessment, and an archaeological assessment. These studies have been peer reviewed by the county's peer review consultant, Stantec, the township's peer review consultant, BMOs, and by the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, as may be applicable. So after a lengthy review process, those studies were found to be satisfactory, with some requiring draft plan conditions or additional information, which James had said is going to be submitted here shortly. The exception to the peer review process is the archaeological assessment, which has been reviewed by the Provincial Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Cultural Industries. The ministry has indicated that they are satisfied with the report and has entered it into their register. Several other agencies have reviewed the applications and have indicated there are no concerns and may have provided draft plan conditions. Those agencies include Enbridge Gas, the Ministry of Transportation, Bell Canada, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Canada Post, Hydro One, and Peterborough County Public Works. As far as the next steps go, so once the county has received a recommendation on the official plan amendment from the township, the county planning department will prepare a report for county council, taking into account the current policy environment and any comments that are received from members of the public. Once county council makes the decision, a notice of decision will be provided in accordance with the Planning Act, and the decision of county council will be final if there are no appeals within the 20-day appeal period. So again, just as a reminder, if anybody wants to submit written comments or wishes to receive any notice of decision, please either get in touch with myself at the county or with Christina at the township, and we'll make sure that gets to you. And that concludes my comments. So we're here to listen to any comments from the public, council, or answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Zai. I appreciate that. So this is the point where we can hand it over and ask if there's anyone present who would like to comment on the application for or against. Do we have anybody on the Zoom call number?
You, Madam Mayor, there is one participant who requested to join. I believe they have audio function only, so if they wish to speak, now is the time.
Thank you. So I'll repeat, is there anyone present who would like to comment on the application either for or against? One more call. Is there anyone who would like to comment? Hearing nothing? Council, over to you. Any questions? Councilor Watt?
On a question, just a comment. Thank you very much. All the work's gone into this. That's a big undertaking, and Jerry, your patience has really paid off. It's a process, that's for sure, but we want to make sure everything's done right and everyone is satisfied with how things go. So that's all I have to say. But thank you very much for all those that participated and are helping get this on the road.
Thanks for those comments, Councillor Watt. So on the heels of that, could I get a motion, please, to close the public meeting? Councillor Report, second by Councillor Watt, all in favor? That motion carries. And we are now just looking for a motion to receive this folder's report. The wording of the motion is in the report specifically. Mayor Nelson,
Also move the motion.
second by Councillor Johnston, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion also carries. On to the next stage then for you. Thank you very much. Okay, so shifting gears, we are going to welcome representatives from the Tilly to provide a report on the auditor's statement, and our interim treasurer, Mr. Kramer, will comment first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to council and the public. I'm excited to present well, I'm not presenting, but have the statements presented tonight for 2020. These are obviously being presented significantly later than what is ideal, but I'm confident that we're now back on track and on track to catch up by the end of the year. We have completed the preliminary audit for 2021, and I'm scheduled to see Veronica and her team back here in August to wrap up 2021. And we are aiming to present those statements second meeting in September or first meeting in October, depending on availability. We have a goal and objective to finish 2020 by the end of the year and have those presented and get us back on track, back on schedule, and which is obviously everyone's goal, at least in our department and I think in the organization. So I'd like to quickly thank Joanna, Veronica, and her team for kind of being a support for me in my transition into the role over the last little while. They've been a pretty good and pretty valuable resource for me. With that said, I will turn it over to Joanna Park and Veronica Mason from Baker Tilly.
Thanks very much for having us. And thank you, Paul, for all your help and cooperation during the audit. It isn't hard, and it's definitely, I guess the one thing I'd like to say to start it off, to try to catch up like this and try to finish off 1 year, like the 2020 audit, and then get into 2021 and 2022 all in the course of one calendar year. That's a big job. So it will take a lot of Paul's time to do there, but I think we're all on the same page and would really like to get there by the end of the year. So thank you, Council, for having us here today. We are presenting the 2020 statement, so we're going to go back in time a little bit. I know in your packages you have our presentation here, as well as the financial statements and the post-audit letter. This presentation is a combination of the other two documents, so I'm only going to be going through this, but of course, happy to address any questions from the other two documents. And I know you have a big agenda, so we'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. We start with, so this is kind of a synopsis. So we start with the auditor's report, because that's really the key item that you want from us. You want to know our opinion on your financial statements. So we just kind of have a duplicate of the second paragraph of the auditor's report. The auditor's report is much bigger, but this is the key paragraph you want to see. And it says, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township at December 31st, 2020. So that is a clean auditor's opinion. It also says that the statements are in accordance with the Canadian public sector accounting standards, which you as municipality have to follow. So they are slightly different than if you have your own, corporation. They differ a little bit and look a little different, but that is what, as a municipality, you have to follow. We're required to let council know what we do as part of our audit. We review council minutes, open and closed minutes, to ensure that anything that's financially related is reflected in your financial statements. We do lots of testing. We do random sampling. We do analytical review. We look at management's estimates to make sure they're reasonable. We also go through your main systems and we look at any internal controls that you have. And if we have any issues with that, we'll report on those as well. And the main systems being your money coming in, your money going out, and any journal entries, adjusting those balances. And the one thing to note too is that we're responsible for everything up until the date we receive our last piece of audit evidence. So at this point, even though it's a 2020 audit, we do have to look at everything, especially when it comes to minutes and anything that might be commitments or contingencies up until the date that we release your financial statements. The audit is almost complete, pending council's approval of the financial statements, the receipt of the signed representation letter, which we will give to management at that point, and then legal letters, which are just going out. So we ask for representation from your lawyers that there's no outstanding legal items. We didn't, we talked then, we didn't have any changes to the initial audit plan. We did have time delays, as Paul talked about. I put it kind of in response to the change in staffing for sure. But we did have excellent cooperation for sure. And the other thing we noted there is that there is a note with the uncertainty caused by COVID. Of course, these are 2020 financial statements, and there is kind of that note that the implications to those numbers aren't fully realized yet as to the full implication of COVID. There are a couple of uncorrected audit differences. They don't impact our audit opinion at all. Some accounts payable were understated, investments were understated, and salary accrual understated. So these are amounts that we accumulate during our audit. It's not necessary to adjust for them, but again, it's required to let council know that there are those amounts. And as we get through into 2021, those items will be cleared up. It's just at this point in time for the 2020 audit, it just didn't make any sense at this point. I'm going to turn it over to Veronica, and she's going to start talking about the numbers a little bit.
Thank you. The first slide you have in front of you here are your financial assets as at December 31st, 2020. The year that we're talking about is the year on the left there. We do show you a 5-year history just to give you kind of the flavor for the trends in the township over the past 5 years prior to 2020. You can see there that your most significant financial assets are cash and investments together. You have about 7.6 million of cash, total cash and investments at the end of 2020, which was quite comparable to 2019. You do also have a small amount of accounts receivable. The largest item there is your HST rebate, which you would have received after year end. And your taxes receivable, 767,000, that was about 6% of the total amounts levied in the year, which is quite comparable to 2019, was both of them rounded to about 6%. And some land held for resale. So those are properties that the township had at the end of 2020 that were classified as being available for resale in the future. And this slide just gives you the graph so you can see the trends. Now this is a time versus dollars graph. So you can see that in this case, 2020 is on the right-hand side. So you can see the upward trend of cash and of investments there in green and gray. And also on this graph, it does give you a sense of the relative size of cash and investments compared to the other assets. And then we have your financial liabilities as at December 31st. You do always have some accounts receivable or accounts payable, I'm sorry, which are amounts that are due after year end for expenses, so goods and services that you would have received before year end. You have some deferred revenue in obligatory reserve funds. So that consists of certain amounts that you're required to set aside, and you will recognize them as revenue at the time that you earn them. The biggest amount there is what was known in 2020 as federal gas tax, about $557,000. Your development charges and your parkland fund are also included in that amount. You have some other deferred revenue, which is grants that you received before the end of 2020, which you were able to carry forward for spending in 2021 and beyond. The largest amount of that was some unspent safe restart funding of about $179,000. And the two other liabilities on this page are your landfill closure and post-closure liability and your employee future benefits. These liabilities are a little bit different because you're not going to be required to have those large outlays of cash at any one time. And you're not required to raise the funds for those until they become due. So the landfill closure and post-closure liability is an estimate of the future amounts that are required for post-closure care for your landfill sites, which is mainly the landfill monitoring. And then employee future benefits are post-retirement benefits for certain employees that would be paid to the employees in the future. And again, we have a graph. You can see their accounts payable and your obligatory reserve funds are the largest liabilities there in blue and red. And then that brings us to your non-financial assets. So when you take the financial assets and less the financial liabilities from the previous two slides, that gives your net financial assets of about 6.6 million, which is a slight increase from 2019, and it's a strong positive number. And then the last section of this financial statement is the non-financial assets. The largest item there are your tangible capital assets. So that is what it sounds like. Any tangible assets that you own, buildings, infrastructure, land, vehicles, equipment, anything of that nature. And the amount that's shown there, the 26.6 million, is the net book value. So that's recorded at historical cost, less any accumulated amortization to date. So it's important to realize that that's based on net book value. It's not something that can be recorded at, replacement cost or a current value. A few other smaller non-financial assets, some prepaid expenses and some inventories of material and supplies. The non-financial asset inventories are inventories for consumption. So things like gravel, fuel, salt, and sand that are on hand at the end of December. And that brings us to our first look at the statement of operations. I know there's a lot of numbers on this slide. We won't go through each and every one. But this slide's really just here to reconcile for you, because when you look at the financial statements, you're going to see it show a budgeted and an actual surplus. And of course, you don't budget to have an operating surplus, but the public sector accounting standards require a different presentation where you take the surplus for all of your funds together. So that includes, increases and decreases in reserves and reserve funds and changes in capital assets and those types of items. So that's what we have on the section below, is the reconciliation to show how that PSAB annual surplus relates to the zero surplus or deficit that you have for operations at the end of the year. Items such as purchase and amortization of TCA, reserve transfers, and changes in unfunded liabilities like your landfill and your employee future benefits. This chart just shows a comparison. Your net book value of tangible capital assets makes up the largest portion of your accumulated surplus. Which I think I didn't tell you the exact number there. I'm going to flip back for a second. The ending accumulated surplus was about 33.5 million, and we'll see another slide that describes that in more detail. And that's what the orange bar there is on the right for 2020, is the total accumulated surplus. In blue, that's the net book value of TCA. So the bulk of your accumulated surplus is invested in tangible capital assets. It would be possible for the blue to be higher than the orange if, for example, you had significant debt or significant unfinanced capital, but that's not the case for you. And this graph's just to kind of show you the trend, the total revenues over 5 years in green, total expenses in red, and then the annual surplus, which again is stated in accordance with public sector accounting standards, not your budgeted operating surplus. But that shows the trend over 5 years for those. And then that brings us to a bit more detail on your revenues. So when we look at this slide, it's kind of important to cast our mind back to 2020 because 2020 was such a unique year in terms of the pandemic and the impacts that it had on things, where there were some things that didn't end up looking like you had anticipated in budget. And where you really see that here is on the user charges line, down quite a bit from the previous year and down quite a bit from what was anticipated in the budget, particularly in recreation, which is probably not a surprise, and as well a little bit in activity in building permits as well. A couple of other highlights just that I'd like to point out on the revenues. The Province of Ontario line, it's down quite a bit from the previous year. That was because there was some one-time funding for modernization in 2019. And as well, it was a bit below budget, and that was due to some projects that were anticipated or hoped for 2020, some smaller items that didn't occur in 2020. So therefore the funding didn't. The other line, just to point out, developer contributions earned is quite a bit lower than budgeted. And that was just because the availability of the funds in, the balances in the development charges account wasn't there to support the amount of charges that were budgeted to be taken out. So those projects, projects were done, and there's an unfunded capital amount sitting, which we can talk about a little later in the accumulated surplus, but it's just basically sitting on the balance sheet. And then as those funds come in, as building activity occurs, the revenue will be recognized at that time. And overall, total revenues for the year, 7.6 million compared to 8.3 budgeted. And this, just to give you an idea of the relative amounts of funding that you bring in, property taxation is about 70% of your total revenues, and the province of Ontario is second at about 12%. And then we have our expenses. You budgeted about 7.3 million, and your actual expenses were about 7.1. The only area where things were over what was anticipated in the budget was in transportation, and there were a few things that factored into that. There were some 2019 items that carried forward and were able to be done in 2020. Also, the amortization expense by department is included in those budget and actual numbers. The prior year amortization is used as a basis for what's recorded in the budget on the financial statements. And you had quite a bit of activity, particularly in roads in the past few years in terms of construction activity and new assets acquired, which meant that the amortization, which isn't a cash item, but it is an expense on the schedule, was higher than budgeted for the year as well. And there you can see recreation too. You can see, as I was mentioning, the activity was down on the revenue side. It was obviously down on the expense side. And this gives an idea of the relative sizes of your types of expenditures, transportation and protection being your largest areas of expense. And this schedule is the same 7.1 million of expenses, just presented in a different format. This time it's by the type of expense. Excuse me. And there you can see that, in particular, what I was mentioning about amortization, that the actual amortization was higher than the previous year and the amount recorded in the budget for the financial statements. And then again, another graph to show you your expenses by type. Fairly equal on most of your expenses, salaries and benefits and contracted services being the largest. And this slide is the point where I'd like to turn it back over to Joanna to complete the presentation.
Thanks, Veronica. Veronica mentioned that you had an accumulated surplus of almost $33.6 million. So this is the makeup of that $33.6 million. The top number being the largest one, and that's the amount you have invested in capital assets at $26.6 million, which is the net book value of your capital assets minus that unfunded capital that Veronica mentioned for development charges that haven't been received yet, and that was about $92,000. So that's what that $26.6 million is. The rest of that top section is you have basically a surplus because of inventory held for sale, resale, and then you have unfunded liabilities for employee future benefits as well as the landfill closure and post-closure. The bottom half is the amount you have in reserves and reserve funds, and you can see that that's increased from just about 7.1 million to 7.3 million over the years. The largest ones, reserves being for capital projects and your working funds. The following slide just shows that trend again of the reserve balances. And you can see that the past councils have made an effort to put money into future capital projects. Reserves, I should say. And then looking at your capital asset additions, you had about $2 million in capital asset additions, over half of that being in roads and bridges. And then you do have a little bit of vehicles. There was a new plow truck purchased in 2020, as well as some machinery and equipment and some building improvements with work done at the library, arenas, and fire halls. And then we just have a couple of slides here just to show trends. And the first one is on the capital asset additions versus amortization. It's good to look at this as, kind of in a 5-year period is probably a good period there, making sure that you're replacing your capital assets at a greater rate than the amortization. So you're depreciating or expensing the assets that you've previously purchased over their useful life. But of course, you need to make sure that you're replacing at a greater rate because, of course, everything is costing more these days. So if you were only replacing at the same rate as the amortization, then you could quickly fall into the infrastructure deficit that is commonly discussed. And then the following one is looking at the capital assets and the average useful life. And this is, of course, just an average over all your assets in those categories. But roads and bridges, you have 58% remaining useful life in those. Yet in computers and computer software, it's a lot less. And that makes sense because you're turning those over and they have a shorter useful life period in there. And then we look at the trend of the net financial assets, and that's your financial assets minus all your liabilities. And you can see the nice trend there. It's definitely a nice positive number at $6.6 million at the end of 2020. And that is it for our presentation. We're happy to address any questions you might have about it or any of the other documents that you had in your packages.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. Handing it over to council. Any questions on our auditors or treasurer at this point in time? Mayor Nelson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment. Thank you very much for all your hard work, and I'm really happy to see the numbers. Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing no questions. So as I understand it, you're coming back in September, October with the 2020 and a more detailed, or 2021 rather, a more detailed report. So at this point in time, we're just looking for a motion to receive them. Is that correct?
So so we need you to approve the 2020 statements, and we will get you to sign the letter as well. But we can take care of that after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. All hands going up. Councilor Johnson, is that a motion to?
Yeah, appreciate.
Second by Councilor Wood.
Will.
All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now moving on to item 8.5 on the agenda. We have Mr. David Williams here to registered as a delegation to speak to some concerns. Proceed, please.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to be here today. As I mentioned before, my name is Dan McWilliams, and I'm speaking here on behalf of the Knox family. It's a Knox family compound of the Belvedere Hotel in Stony Lake. The family's been have had this site since 1906. This is the first time any member of the family has appeared before council. So we're not a needy group, but we need your help. We have some serious concerns. Today with me, I have Lou and Brenda Constantine at the back there, two people that are, this room should be full of people, but the fact is that our summer residents aren't here yet. But the upset folks that are here right now, the Constantines are here, they're witnessing what they said. You have a number of letters, I hope, that have arrived here from different people as well. I've got two brother-in-laws sitting in front of me. I've got Robbie Knox sitting there and Rob Cage are both there. Both people that are there living the situation as we speak every day. And just wanted to, hopefully when this presentation is over, that you'll have a few questions for us. And I will ask you for a little leeway on this. It's very tough and difficult to put 100 years of what's happened at the landing in 10 minutes, but I'll certainly try to see what I can do there for you. 2385 Crow's Landing Road. Here since 1906, as I mentioned before. If you know the history of the organization of the family, the government was sold the frontage off this property very early in the 1900s, at which time we as a group we had 99 years that we had for 99 years. The docking privileges are at the front there. However, we gave the frontage away to the government to put the public docks in. You folks have inherited from the government there a number of years ago. And the issues and concerns that we're having from the cottagers, the residents that are there is very serious. I mean, I said earlier, I hope that all council members have received the information. I do have a number of pictures that we still haven't done that, outlining the issues. The issues from of concerns from various lake cottagers and residents. I trust the letter will bring back, my letter that I've given you is bring back some normalcy to this landing, because there are some serious issues here that we want to address. Basically, the major ones are the abuse and the entitlement that just is out of control at the landing at this point. I would invite any one of you folks here to come and sit on the front veranda at Crow's Landing with these guys at any part of the day. A glass of lemonade or something even stronger, because I don't know if we'll be able to put up with, we have to put up with some of the things that go on there. But I want to try to get back to that and give you that. I'm going to try to give you a little idea, and I want to bring on a resident that really is living part of it as well. The problem is, the concerns are, folks, is that we're running a full-blown commercial operation off that front dock there that was never meant to be a full-blown commercial operation. There's no concern for other users, being our summer people. There's no concern about timelines. Last night it was 9 o'clock at night. In the morning it starts early morning. They're there. There's no concern for property. The docks themselves, I think Mr. Collins has been there a couple of times to fix the docks. The rings are torn off. You've got steel cemented in rings on the concrete. They're sheared off. It's just it's beyond ridiculous. The noise. I mean, I can't say the quiet of Stony Lake is not quite the peaceful place that you can think it is at times. The limits of use. It's a 24/7 operation, whereas there's no time that you won't find somebody there or something. You leave a boat there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're sitting there overnights. The congestion at the front is taking away from the peacefulness of the landing. It's not fair to those that use it. It's not fair to we become used to it as people that live there, but it's just not fair. The overnight parking is out of control. There's actually people there that are looking for space, and they've said, well, if they can do it, we're doing it. So you have people there in pontoon boats. They get there and they're parking there as well. The worst part about it, where I come from, there's no environmental concerns. When I look and see the lake for as far as the habitat is concerned, that too is very concerning. The other thing you're looking at is that at one point, off the end of that cement pier, it was 8 feet. It's now under 5 feet. This morning, the video I got this morning, there was a person out there with a blower, leaf blower, blowing the dirt and the dust and all this stuff that they track onto the roadway back into the water. And I have to tell you that, you know, from what I look at, and anybody, I look at a lot of people that are outdoors people, it's fishing, June is bass month, and they're sitting on their spawning bed. Now, any residual like this affects everything. So I think it's important that part has to be addressed, that we're looking at. Our request is based on common sense. And at this point, where we're looking and seeing things, there is no common sense. We like to is regain control of the docks. That's one of the things. The no overnight parking. There used to be signs there when it was federally regulated. The signs were up there on a regular basis, and people would be, and I know that there's a lady here who's going to attest to some of those things. Time limits, all that has to be things that are addressed, but there just seems to be nothing. Proper regulations and policy should be in place, and for proper dock management. We need help from you folks. And we need it now, because it's the summer season is not even happened yet. It's just not right. The great thing is that people in Warsaw are family. Daryl Drain lives up the road from us. Daryl used that landing for a number of years and knew that was cutting into the people that use it on a regular basis. He knew that he couldn't run his commercial operation from there or be there on a regular basis. And he wisely went and found a place to do it, whereas these folks are going to have to do exactly the same thing, because the peace and tranquility of that lake is lost at that particular point. And we're just trying to bring it back to some normalcy, because it just isn't there. We're not worried about just the summer months. It's the shoulder seasons as well, because once the folks like the Constantines are gone or the rest of the residents are there, it's just a takeover. Do what you want. It's the wild west of lakefront. It's just not fair. It's not fair to the users, and there's need for policy, there's need for policing, and there's need for enforcements. I mean, we understand, we know that complaints are regulations are complaint driven, and that we know that. We're looking at complaints, and most people aren't complainers. I mean, complaining happens to comes to the landing and said, what are we going to do about this? The reason I'm standing here on behalf of the family is because we've been the greeter for over 100 years there. When you come to Crow's Landing, you look, we're the people there that will meet you. We're the ones that tie your boat up when it goes loose. We're the ones that pick up the garbage when you leave it on the dock. We're the ones that pick up the dog doo-doo that's from trees around the place. The fairness is not there because we've been doing it for a number of years, and they think, well, don't worry about it, they'll look after it. So what I'm looking for is Mr. Khan and his group and you as council, with wise council, to see if we can do something to bring that normalcy back to the peaceful lake that it once was. The fact is that these people think that they're bending the rules severely, but they're breaking the rules. And the reason they're breaking them is we took the rules for granted, but today they're not there, and they just want to come in and take on a situation that's not fair. So at this point, I want to say there's a major concern right now. We know that you folks are leaving for holidays in August, and 100% I think it's great that you get your holidays and do a great job. But the thing is that we have a regatta coming up the last Saturday in July. The concern of the volunteers in this community at the lake, the USLA and those people are concerned these boats won't move. They've got such a hook into that landing and need to be there. We're going to have to go and ask if they'll move their boats so the regatta can take place. That's how serious it is, because these people have just taken over and taken it for granted that it's their place to be, and we're not moving. And until you see what's going on there, I mentioned earlier, the noise, the different things, it just isn't fair. So we ask council to help return the landing to the people that actually use it. And this is not a selfish request from Crow's Landing. We've lived it, we know what it is. We can set little things and certain requirements, but what's there now is just total abuse, and there is no speaking with the people. If you take a look at some of the articles that we sent your pictures, you'll recognize some of the names, you'll know the people that are there. And, they're not first-time offenders, and it's not fun, and it's not the place it used to be. We want to bring out the meeting place that was, the access to Islanders that enjoyed it in the way they enjoyed it previously. If I can indulge you just for a few more minutes, I want to invite a lady up here. I think since the lady mentioned I could have one speaker maybe follow, if I could indulge, if I could have just.
There isn't anyone else registered.
No,
So ideally, it would be just you, if you could relay those comments on Mr. Williams.
well, this lady is, she's from the US. I know I didn't put her name is, I can, again, she's been in Crow's Lane since she was very young. Brenda, how long have you been there?
Well, mom and dad's 46, but mom and dad bought the place in 43. Mom wouldn't bring a baby up to the water. We had that in 46, but we've been there since 43.
Just one moment, Mr. Williams. With council's approval, we can make a motion to allow the additional delegates.
I'll make
to come
the
up.
motion.
Thank you, Councilor Report, Councilor Johnston. all in
Thank you.
favor?
So if I
That
can
carries.
ask Brenda Constantine just to come forward, Brenda, to say a few words and keep it brief, trying to repeat some of the things that I've said. But
Well, most people know me as Brenda Halferty Cosentine. My husband's known as Lou Halferty, not Cosentine. Or Lou.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm not much of a speaker, guys, but I have to tell you what happened yesterday morning. At 9 o'clock in the morning, every Monday, I do quilting in Aspen. So I have to take my machine and my quilt with me. I went over to the landing at 9 o'clock. I didn't get out. I didn't find a parking place till 9:30. There was a guy shooting dirt into a barge. There were 2 barges on this side. This is the wood dock. Arrington's barge is right here. The big barge with the dirt throwing was there. There was another little barge over here. On this side, there was a pontoon boat, and then another pontoon boat. A guy parked his boat on the other side, and then there was a fire boat. There was no place for me to get out. Can you imagine me taking a sewing machine on a floating dock? I mean, by myself, I couldn't do it. You have to lift up the machine, put it on the cement. But I can't even put it on the cement. There's no rings. There are no, all of the cleats on the floating docks are broken. And there's no way you can get them there. There was just no place for me to go. And I'm an islander. I've been an islander for a long time. We all take care of each other. We care about each other. One day, last year, in the middle of July, there were 5 ladies who were in a car up the hill, waiting for our turn to get our groceries out, to get down to the dock to get a place because they were doing things, they were unloading. Now, earlier about 2 weeks ago, we were destroyed during that tornado. We lost 2 acres of 200-year-old trees and 2 buildings. So we had to get our tool shed. We bought a prefab. We had it delivered. My family and I, everyone pitched in, put it on our boats, got out of there. In 20 minutes, there was not a staple, there was no dirt, there was nothing there. When the dirt man left, there was dirt all over where I would have put my six flat and my machine. So I went down, I lost my Irish. I said, you washed your machine. You get down here and you wash and sweep this stuff over there, not in the water with the dishes, but over there. So, and I stood there and I watched him. I'm a teacher. And I just gave him the way they did it. Another time, the guy was taking trees off of his barge. It was the Arrington barge. The truck went off and there were bushes and trees all up and down the road. So I went, I picked every single brush, every tree up, and I took it up to Arrington's. I put it on his lawn. And you take care of it. Now, and then I said, who is the manager here? I went and I gave him what for. I said, for Pete's sake, I live here. I'm proud of this place. This is my home. We've been deployed overseas for 20 years. So when I come back to Stony, it's my home. Pick up those branches. I did it this time. You do it next time. So they've been better at doing that. But yesterday, I couldn't even get back up to my car. There were 5 trucks waiting to get down between 9 and 9:30. I went home.
See the passion, you see the passion we got here, guys? That's just
But
one.
I tried to get people to come today, but nobody's here but on weekends, and we're so busy cleaning up from the tornado. We've got it up to here right now, you know, so thank you very much. I'm sorry, I'm not much of a speaker, but I love this place. When we were young, we had to wear our life jackets before we could
What do we
even
need to hook?
get out of the house. That's how long I've been here.
Well, thank you for sharing
Okay.
your experience.
And thank you for listening to this wild woman.
Thank you, Brenda. And that, folks, is the passion that's brought from people that are not from Warsaw, not from the county, but live here for the summer, and it's gotta happen. But the issue is, we've got to put regulations, we have to put some sort of rules in, or policy that people understand. It just doesn't put, oh, once they're gone, everything's okay, because the shoulder seasons are as important as what the regular days are. And I know there were letters and everything said, so just read those and let you know that we're asking for that help. We need that particular help. And I'm hoping that you'll be gone, but you won't hear from the USLA people, but they need to know they got those doctors together. That's very, very important. Questions or concerns? Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Klein. So yes, we did get in our package copies of letters, as well as photographs, did come through in the package. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Klein at this point in time?
Well, all I want to say is that, yeah, we respect your concerns, and I do know that you live there, we've got to clean it up. Like when I was there years ago, when we put the cement all in and the rings in and everything else. So I've been around there for a long time. Now the abuse is going on. I'm not one to say what we can do about it. We got to do something about it. But that's something that we're going to have to talk with our building crew and our the roads department, things like that, that they're going to have to suggest things for us. Like there was one motion that one letter there that the person said that maybe another dock in the middle would help. I don't know. It's something we've got to look at. Not that particular item, but we got to look and see what we can do.
But right on that particular note, even last night, there was another barge in there we've seen a few times, but it was right down the middle, like there was no room last night. And then the walls are full and people, they'll even take the time when they're in and they can't get a place, these contractors, they'll move your boat. They'll double you up till they get their place. So again, folks, there's as long as you're allowed.
Suggestions there?
Well, I don't know, but no, I don't want to make suggestions. I'll tell you, when the federal government was there, the federal government was running that. My father-in-law, Greg Knox, and Herb Knox, both were the wharf master on their behalf. There was respect then. Now, I mean, you got to wait for Mr. Condon or one of his guys to go there, and then they wait till he's gone, and away they go again. There's got to be a monitor there. There's got to be something there that they're not doing that in McCracken. They're not doing that anywhere else. They want to play games at this one for some reason, because there doesn't seem to be any enforcement. The nice guys, we sit up in the brand and watch this stuff go on, which is just not right. As I say, the invitation is open to come and look and watch and see, or even take your boat down there and see if you get a fishing board there. It's impossible. So I'm not. We're a needy bunch here. We need your support, and we need to come up with a solution, because it's just not fair. I look at this island, the islanders that are here, and the people that are here. Just I'm feeling bad for them.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Constantine, sorry, we don't typically take questions from the floor. Council, any other questions? What would you like to
Well,
do?
just a comment again to the chair, like, we definitely need to look at this, and I'm not sure what department needs to police that, or maybe all of it needs to go out there and look at the situation and see how we can address it. Because I know we used to do that.
Anyone else?
Yes, thanks for your presentation. I know back in the past, we have had issues at both wharves that we dealt with, and I think one of the first things that needs to happen is we need to get signage back up. And we used to have, I gotta turn this and ask staff, if we still have a bylaw in place for the wharf. I don't know whether we do have any bylaws enforce for the wharf? Nothing? Anyways, I do know that there were signs up there limiting the use of hump boats. And I believe that we need to address that as council and put that back up, that we need a limit of a time limit of when them boats. We're not wanting to limit people coming ashore or leaving, but they need to be respectful of each other. And some kind of a sign, some signage that we can actually enforce. And I don't know, again, I'll bring this up, but I think we can also have staff look into, I know back in the day when we were having trouble, I don't know what the legal ramifications of this is, and I think staff can look into with a lawyer, but we actually, under the Liens and Storage Act, we were able to remove boats that was there for a long period of time. And we actually hired a contractor to remove some boats, and we only did it once. And I can tell you, it didn't happen anymore because they had to pay to get them boats back. So I do believe that there is some stuff that we can do. Maybe, I don't know, we'll look to staff to recommend what we need to do, and look at it legally. But I agree with you. If it's just like the Wild West, it's not fair to everybody else that's using the facility, and it costs the township a lot of money to put both wharfs in to replace that. And I think that enjoyment also, and if there's smashing our docks and smashing our stuff off, that's disrespectful, very disrespectful. And I agree. We need to, or that's my comments anyways.
Councillor Laporte, then Councillor Watt.
Through Mayor Watson, this is an issue that does need to be resolved quickly. And with summer break coming up here, we can't afford to delay either. So just in terms of timeline, looking to get some ideas on how quickly we can put something together from staff's perspective, as well as other members of council, whether it be a special council meeting or some people from council working with staff over the next couple of weeks, because we are reaching peak season at the lake. So we need to have this looked after before that time.
Is there any comment on timelines?
Through Mayor Watson, obviously we knew that this was coming. We're trying to look at other areas where they govern some of this, and the challenge certainly is enforcement and what we want to put in place. We do need to have a quiet bylaw. We can't, I'm sure there was voluntary compliance years ago with a sign that said no overnight parking, but we don't want to put something in place that we can't enforce, because then we end up in a situation where it's just ignored. So we will have to take some time to do some research to find out what is reasonable. Time limits are great, but then we need staff going down there and checking. So if the resources are tough and the enforcement piece is tough. So we will need some time to research it and bring it back. We certainly could have a special council meeting if we think we can get something pulled back together and just come in for one item. First meeting to do that.
Councillor Watt and Councillor Johnston.
No, I agree, Pauline. We have to do something. We have to do it correctly. So if I may, I'd like to make a motion to receive Mr. Williams' presentation with thanks and with his extra speaker, and that we direct staff to, and with the help of council, to do everything we can in the shortest period of time to resolve this legally, what we can do, what we can't do, and get it resolved before the peak season starts, because there definitely is a problem.
Do you have that number?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor
And just a comment,
Yes,
I
sir.
think another avenue also is that maybe of the ones, the companies that are using the docks that they pull the stuff out with, maybe they should be contacted and explain to them what's going on, that other people that live there, they've got to also use the docks. I think if they were explained to that, I mean, they know it, but then business is business, and they only got a short time of the summer to do what they gotta do. But I think if they were talked to, that would help an awful lot too. Explain the message they're leaving and everything else.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any comments on the motion?
I'll second that motion.
It was already seconded,
Oh, sorry.
duly seconded by Councillor Johnson. So, all in favor? And that motion carries. And I'll just add, Dan and to the rest of the folks, we hear you, I've heard you, my phone's been ringing, I've received emails and got that information on file, and we're committed to working to get this resolved soon. So thank you for bringing it to our attention, and we will be in touch hopefully in due course.
Thank you. Feedback.
All right, so, okay, I'm getting a request for a quick recess. Shall we?
2 minutes.
Yeah.
We shall do that, a quick recess, 2 minutes, we will resume at 6:30 sharply. Thank you. got back started again. Thank you. I feel like the chambers is a dwindling group now. Are we on that?
We are back here, recording live, unmuted, ready to roll.
Ready to roll. All right, thank you for that brief recess. So we are now on item number 9, other business and staff reports on our agenda, folks. So on to item 9.1, report and capital project status. Does council have any questions or items that they want to discuss on that report? Nothing. A motion from councilor report, seconded by councilor Johnson to receive that. All in favor? That carries. Item 9.2, purchase of a wheeled excavator. And we have Mr. Conant to speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The recommendation before you is that the Public Works 2023-09 report dated June 20th, 2023 regarding the purchase of a wheeled excavator and brush head be received and that council award the tender to Brand Tractor in the amount of $385,544.26. This is inclusive of the extended warranty and excludes HST. And further, that the 2014 John Deere wheeled excavator and brush head be deemed surplus to the operation. And council authorized the manager to proceed with the trade-in of the equipment. And further authorizes the manager to purchase the bucket attachments directly from the supplier H&H in the amount of approximately $40,000 plus HST, providing additional savings to the municipality. A bit of an overview on this, an RFP was issued in May and closed, May 29th and closed June 12th. We received 6 submissions. 3 submissions were deemed, were excluded from the process. 2 did not meet the required specifications and 1 was incomplete. I did provide a table with the results from the submissions that we did receive. Brand Tractor 2023 model is the lowest tendered price, meeting the required specifications, as well provides a delivery date of 12 to 14 weeks. Purchasing these buckets from the supplier will save us an additional $15,000 as opposed to purchasing through the RFP. I did have it on the RFP as a provisional item, just to see what the pricing came back as. The financial impact of the excavator purchase was in the 2023 budget, and it does come under budget of the 23 budget. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Conant. Councilor report.
I'd like to make a motion to approve and manage or proceed.
Well,
Okay,
second.
Councilor Johnston, any discussion on the motion?
Just one question, is the brush head, what is the brush head, Jim?
Sorry, the Promac 50 RSM 52-inch brush head, similar to the one we have.
Okay.
Yeah. Just an updated model.
Yep, thanks.
Any other questions? Since we jumped to the motion so quick. Seeing no questions, any discussion on the motion? Let's call a vote then. All in favor, and that motion carries. Thank you for that. On to item 9.3, request release agreement, and this is going back over to.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. So council has before them report planning 2023-23 with the recommendation that the report regarding request to release agreement for 379 8 Line Road, Douro-Dummer be received, and that council authorize staff to direct Roger Housen, barrister and solicitor, to prepare a partial release of the agreement, being instrument number R567154, as it pertains to 379 8 Line Road, Douro-Dummer, being part 1 on plan 45R9540. Just quickly, the 379 8 Line Road, Douro-Dummer is subject to 2 severance applications, which have been granted provisional approval by the County of Peterborough. Mr. Housen is the lawyer for the owners of the property and discovered the agreement registered against the title of the property. he has requested that the agreement be removed and requires the approval of the township to do so. The agreement was required by the former township of Dummer as a condition of a previous severance application from 1992 for that property that stipulated that there would be no further severances from the property. And so in order to complete the 2022 severance applications, that agreement has to be removed from title. So given that the decision was made to grant approval to the 2022 severance applications, and that neither the county or the township identified any concerns, staff are recommending that it would be appropriate to direct Mr. Howson to prepare the release of that agreement. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Mayor, for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Walter. Any questions from council on the report that's before you? No questions? Is there a motion? Councilor Ward?
To accept and proceed.
The recommendation.
It's the recommendation.
I don't have the words in your mouth, is all.
Yes. To accept the
I'll
recommendation.
second that.
Councilor Johnson, any comments or a motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. On to item 9.4, the Township of Douro-Dummer equity plan. Who's our first?
Thank you, Mayor Watson. The recommendation is that CAO 2023-14, report dated June 20th, 2023, regarding the Township Douro-Dummer equity plan be accepted, and the staff be directed to follow the process of posting the plan for 90 days for comments and questions from staff. This just wraps up a broader project that we did with job descriptions, reviews of our salary grid, and ultimately the pay equity, which fortunately came back when it was tested that we were not, we had no issues with our pay equities. There's no financial requirement for that. We just now post the plan and it's there for staff to review and they can ask questions and hopefully everything's fine. We post it for 90 days and it'll be posted.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the plan and direct staff to follow the process of posting the plan for 90 days.
Thank you, Councilor Ward, and I would like to give you an announcement going to second that. Thank you. All in favor? That motion carries. On to item 9.5, the use of off-road vehicles, ORVs on township roads. Ms. Arthurs, back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. The recommendation of the CAO 2023-13 report dated June 20th, 2023 regarding the use of ORVs on township roads be received, and that council provides staff direction on any changes to be implemented to the current status of ORV use in the township. This was an exercise we went through with the previous council, and then following a delegation, staff was asked to go back and take a look. So we brought back what the county had offered as potential county roads to use, as well as our current status, and then a loop that was created just because it seemed to make more sense at the time to not have dead ends where people couldn't go anywhere else. So this was the same that we brought to council previously. So now we're bringing it back for review and discussion to determine how this council would like to move forward.
Thank you for that. Comments, questions? Councilor Watt.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. I know this has been ongoing a long time. It was a fair bit of disappointment, but again, people didn't show up, so it's their own fault. For the county portion, which is later in option B, which would have given a venue to come down through into Warsaw, use the things here, down through to the south end, cross over, up, back up, so it kind of made a loop in around to tie in a few things that are already current. At that time, with the present council, then it got turned down, which was, it's a democracy, so that's what happened. I would like to see that come back to the county to open that up. It's gonna tie in a fair number of things. And then as far as the township goes, and I know we talked about in other meetings not having like a trial thing, like let's not say we're gonna do it for a year, whatever, let's just either do it or don't do it, and then come back and address it if we're having problems. That was one of the comments that was made. And going back to the original plan, and I'm talking original, way back when, we had talked at that time about opening up the roads in Douro and Dummer, except for the Donwood area, and I don't know what they call that, Hamlet, whatever it is, it's on what. Division Road. The road that goes, is it, from the corner, 5 corners over to Trent University, no, that's not University. Nassau Road and Birchview Road. Those were to be excluded because of population and how much traffic and so on and so forth on. But open up the rest of the roads and see how it went. So we got, and that would be my recommendation right now, speaking with this, that we set that in motion. So I'm gonna make a motion that, I'll put a motion on the floor that we do.
Okay, so for my clarity and for discussion of the group,
Yes.
can you tell us what's open? Everything, or what's not open, but you're proposing?
What's not open to be all of Dunwood,
Yes.
Division Road, Birchview Road, and Nassau Road, is that what you called it? Going across, those be excluded from ATV or ORV usage. Other than that, everything else for the township would be open and see how it goes.
Right, and just for clarity, Division Road, would we have authority to even to do anything on that without some sort of dialogue with our neighbors who live down in County of Monaghan? Mr. Condon has an agenda.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Township of OSM does not have a bylaw for ORVs in place. So I guess we should communicate with them. However, I don't think there'd be any issue moving forward if that's what council's wish was, as they don't have a bylaw in place right now.
Secretary, Mayor, one second. Can I just clarify, Jake, when you say they don't have a bylaw, so when the legislation changed, if there's no bylaw, it means they're permitted? So you're saying they are permitted everywhere? Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Counselor, so that's the motion.
Yes.
We need a seconder to have a discussion on that.
I would second that motion.
Deputy Mayor Nelson, thank you. Counselor Report, you had your hand up to speak.
Yes, I do. So through you, Madam Mayor, the OSM does not have a bylaw. Does Asphodel have one in place? This division or boundary shared there as well?
I'm not sure of that. I do believe they do have one, and however, I'm not sure of the roads that are permitted.
So I think that is one area that needs to be some further staff investigation.
That's why I excluded it, if we weren't sure.
So that needs to be brought up as well. This is a kind of a pretty material change in use of roads in the township. I think it would be quite appropriate to have some public dialogue with constituents. I know that people may sit here at a table and every one of us may say, this was a big issue that came up, or I talked to X number of people. But I think this is the type of thing that we should give the community the opportunity to come here and speak publicly. I hate to be kind of feeling like I'm being a little bit hypocritical, but I've talked to a lot of people on my road. And I think there's a good opportunity to bring the public here for a public meeting and have some feedback from them, because they live on the roads that the ATVs will be using.
Councilor
to the chair
Johnson.
there. First of all, like the map we got here is from the county. And they're saying they don't have, that is use those roads, right? That's the first thing. So
No, that's not quite true.
Oh.
Staff, clarify?
Through you, Madam Mayor, so option B is a map. Currently, the locations in green. So a section of County Road 6 and 44, and then the 12th line of Dummer plus Simpson. Those are areas where ORVs are currently allowed in our township. Either the township has approved it or the county has approved it. The areas in purple are locations that we had added to the map to create a wholesome loop, but the county has not looked at those because we have not asked them to look at those. So this was just a map created for discussion purposes.
Well, I personally feel that we should address that before we do the rest of the township. I think they need to be able to travel to these side roads. So I think we need the county on our side to do that mapping. And then I think I'd be more in favor of looking at where we can go. And as far as the public meeting goes, yeah, I guess we probably need a public meeting, but we've had this for years it's been going on. And there's, like, there's so many against it and so many for it, including the police. We've had them, we've had all the different ones at the table, and it never really went anywhere. And I'm not against opening up, which Tom made the motion that I'm not against opening up, but I don't know that we should put our whole township blanket wise, let go. I'm not, no, I don't know at this stage that I'm in favor of that. But I do think we should get the county on our side and open it up to where they can go somewhere. And like that purple lines on the map here. That's my comment.
Councillor Vervoort for the second time on the motion. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Deputy Mayor Nelson had his hand up before yours. I apologize.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. The provincial government, in their wisdom, I believe, passed a bylaw that allowed them on the roads. If I look at it, I'm an owner. I've ran them for years. I've had four-wheelers, three-wheelers way back in the day. I have a side-by-side. I go out and I continue to go out because I feel it's against my rights as a taxpayer. I pay license, I pay insurance to the province. I pay a license for that vehicle. And now I am not allowed. I got a tractor. I can take that tractor anywhere on the road. It's off-road. As long as I'm being a rightful citizen and I'm paying the speed limits of what they are, they've already regulated all of that through the province. And every township pretty much around here has opened it up. They didn't pass a bylaw when the province changed the law, the rules and the regulations. So I feel I'm being, how do I say it? I feel I'm being centered out and not being treated as any other citizen that owns one and pays license and insurance for that vehicle, that I can't, and pay gas tax. A bicycle, you pay nothing for. And meanwhile, we spend millions on bicycles, but we can't do that with our side-by-sides. I go for rides, me and my family, we go for rides. We have other people that go with us. We spend money, we buy gas, we go to restaurants and on a Sunday afternoon. And lots of times I leave right from my house and maybe go to Tweed for a barbecue. And I'm going to tell you, before I got on council, I maybe wouldn't do it now because my name's going to hit the paper. But I was stopped 6 times by the OPP. Even had to do a breathalyzer. Rightfully so. They seen an empty beer can that somebody put in there, not me, but I didn't even know it was in there. And they've done a breathalyzer. That's fine. I told him I didn't have nothing, had nothing to drink. I don't do that when I'm. Anyways, he said, you know what? Your council needs to address this because we have all kinds of bikes coming into this area or traveling through, and it goes, they don't know where they are. When you're on a bike, they don't know where they are. I do, unfortunately, I do know where I am. And he said, your council needs to address this. 6 times, folks, I got stopped by the OPP and not one single charge. They're not gonna charge you when you're out abiding by the law and being respectful and taking your trip. So that, anyways, I've talked to them. That's my thoughts.
Councillor, you mentioned you had up to speak. Oh, Oh, there's that.
No, Counselor Wong, please.
Great.
Trying to collect my thoughts.
All right, if I may, through you, Madam Mayor, with staff, just for, and it was a question that Councilor Johnson brought up, and just for clarification, the option B with the purple lines on it, that was what the county came to us wanting us to pass, correct? Or is that not correct? Or was that just an option for us to look at?
So through you, Madam Mayor, so option B encompasses some of the roads that the county had asked us to look at originally, and then includes additional roads based on past discussion that took place at council.
Why I'm asking that is because I remember one of the proposals they had came down to Stock Road, like, why Stock Road? You can't go anywhere because we didn't have any sort of gas. So we proposed to come right down to the village and then make a loop around some of that. So I thought, and like I said, I could be wrong, I thought the county was kind of on board with that. But if, and I don't have a problem with Councilor Johnson's suggestion, let's take this purple area here, go back to the county and say, okay, we're in favor of this now. Do you want to pass it? And then we can take the next step with our roads from there. I'm quite happy to do that first. As far as opening up all the roads, except the ones that I excluded there, yeah. And I'll tell you why I did that. And it came from someone that lived down by the Douro ballpark. I'm not gonna mention name that. He said, because there was one time that, well, let's just open up Dummer Township first and see what happens. Well, person down there says, well, how come I can't go from my place north, right up north and up the second line all the way to the Cedar Crossroads, do the zigzag, go up by the caves and hit the trail stuff again. He said, why am I getting penalized? Because I can't do that. And that's kind of where we went with that very first map system, saying, okay, let's exclude the real busy areas, the ones that are more traveled by cars, the more speed areas that are going to make that growing up areas. Let's take them off the table completely, but open up the rest of them. So that was my analogy for going that route. But I would certainly be all in favor of going to the county with option B here first with the purple, say, no, here's what our council is in favor with now, and then we can address the rest after.
Councilmember Moore, for the second time on
This is
motion.
maybe where you are going to say something too about a change to the motion based on option B being a potential starting
Yes.
point.
I was wondering if you
coupled-
had a question to the motion before I was going to ask Councilor Watt.
Coupled with some public consultation in here too, and some feedback.
So Councilor Watt, you made the motion to open up the entire township, but in your comments, you're talking
Okay.
about going to the county.
I
So
would
bring in
amend,
some
I would
clarity,
amend my
please.
motion to stop going back to the county with option B here with what's lined out in purple. And tell them that we are in favor of that if we get a vote in favor of, get that one done and then come back to the table here with council and work on our township roads and see where we can go from there.
So from a procedural standpoint, would it make, because you changed the motion significantly, would it make sense just to withdraw your motion
Okay,
and
that's
make a new
what.
motion?
All right.
Do we need to make a second that withdraw that? Or it was already seconded?
It was, but if someone withdraws their motion, then it falls.
All right. So Councilor Watt, what is the motion that you would like to make instead, please?
Okay, so my motion would be, so County Road 8, which is, I guess it comes to your. So my motion would be to go back to the county with option B, outlined in purple, and possibly add on the rest of County Road 8, like basically starting at the Douro Arena through to County Road 38, because I see it's not on the list here, and that gives an option for those people that live along there. And then the rest of County Road 8 is on there right down to County Road 40. And we're the county with that, once approval is done for that. As staff got that, understand where I'm talking about?
Is that right? I was like, I know, I'm not sure. I was gonna say, I hope staff asked for clarification because I was about to.
What's in purple, and then from the dome, or from the Douro Arena corner, like so at County Road, or yeah, County Road 28, right through to County Road 38 on County Road 8. So come right through Douro. Just add that little piece in purple.
Yep.
And then present that to the county, and if they're in favor of it, then come back to our township and we'll deal with our township roads second.
So again, just for clarity on the map, so council is all aware what we're looking at. And I don't know if clerk can pull option B map up perhaps on the screen. So the option B map with the purple loop as it sits, Councillor Watt, that like just, I'm piecing this out. So option B with the purple loop. Fully.
So you see the purple route,
And then from the, I'm going to call it the orange Douro dot.
which
Just
is
to
right
the
at the
west.
Douro end, basically, County Road 8 all the way through to County Road, because I guess that's 38 and south from Morse.
So just the addition of that.
The addition of that little strip there along to County Road
8 to
28 and 8 over to County Road 38, add that one in,
Highway 28
and 8,
and 8.
yes, and then across to County Road 38 and 8, just add that piece in, and then present it back to them and see what the county comes up with for us.
Okay, so are we all clear on the motion? Is the media now clear on the motion?
Purple loop, County Road 8 and Highway 28 through County Road 38 and Highway 8.
That's an addition to what's all
In
mapped.
addition to the purple loop.
Yes, it'll attach to that purple.
Yes, but those are the highway. If I say those roads, I'm not wrong, correct?
Highway 28.
County Road 8 and Highway 28 through County Road 38 and 8.
As an addition to what is already proposed.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, okay, we are all clear as mud. It's important that we are clear here so that we're not feeling that, we agreed to something we didn't. So thank you for taking that extra time. So we've got a motion on the floor. Are you seconding that?
I will second that.
All right. So is there any discussion on the new motion that's before us? Hearing, so Councillor Watt,
Yes,
I thought I had heard you talk about some consultation.
I did, I think. But go ahead. If you want.
No, I wasn't sure if you were going
See,
to.
and I don't think we need that, and even with our own township one, I mean, that's a discussion for when we decide our township one, but we have done it numerous times, and I think as staff said, like, you really don't have to have one, we just make the motion to do it when we decide to do it, if we decide to do it, and go from there, because we've had consultation, we've had 3-4 public meetings, and some of them would cut off, like, all the nays got their say, and then the yeas got cut off within 5 minutes, so it was 9:30 at night, and I'm sorry, that's just something that always rubbed me the wrong way, and then, we had people in the council chambers here that, and a lot rash to send in letters, and like I said, I'm not condemning people, but if you want something, you gotta speak up, so if it comes back that, there's a lot of people send letters in, they're not in favor of it, that's fine, but to have a public meeting for this part, no, I don't think it's the county.
Okay, Councillor.
Through Madam Mayor, does this essentially punt this over to the county, getting their blessing of us doing this, and then we would subsequently have to approve it from there?
No, I think.
This is just an approval, a request for the county to look at it.
County will have to do this and we look afterwards.
Is there who's going to weigh in on the process?
Through Mayor Watson, we will certainly contact the county. If they are in favor of us moving forward, they will have to approve their roads and we will approve ours. So depending on the timing, if the county is prepared to move forward, we could prepare a bylaw and bring this back to you on the August 1st meeting. And the county would have to, I'm not sure what their meeting schedule is, but they would have to do something simultaneously to have that go through in and around the same time. So they still would be responsible for their own portion. But we could certainly get a verbal indication that they were okay with it.
So, just so I'm clear on that, so if we send this back saying we're in favor, we still have to approve it later, or they just approve it and that's added to their list?
The county will have, I'm sorry, Chief Mayor Watson, the county will have to do it with county council for the approval of the change.
Right.
And then we will have to do our roads here.
Oh, our road, separate, yes, but this one, once it goes to the county, they approve it, it's done with this
Do we
part.
have anything that's not county?
Is it not a bylaw? The county prepares the bylaw.
Yes.
We don't have to prepare the bylaw on the county road.
Correct.
Okay, I misunderstood that as well. Thank you. That's what report.
Through Mayor Watson, hypothetically, in one of these, in this purple, of course, there are different lanes that people would drive through. hypothetically, one of those sections of roads, 90% of the residents signed a petition and said, we don't want ORVs on our road. What is the remedy to that, or the repercussions? Is it the township saying, too bad, taxpayer, even though you don't want them? Hypothetically, any section, hypothetically, any section of road, is there a potential, like, what are some potential recourse, or if a lot of residents complain that they don't want them off the road, do we just say, too bad? Or do we come back to the table and look at changing the route?
So your hypothetical situation, did you want staff to answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
True, Mayor Watson, again, I'll go back to they're county roads, right? So it'll get approved at the county level. So if the petition comes to us and, council says, well, we asked for it, now we don't want to do it, we can go back to the county. Again, it would be dependent on timing. Alternatively, I suppose they could petition the county directly. If they thought this was
That'll be.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilor Watt.
If I may, one last thing, and I don't want to delay this too long, and that gets back to what staff said before, if we just make a bylaw and pass it, we can always go back and rescind it if we find out it's backfiring in our faces and things are bad, but looking at other areas around, stuff like that, they're not getting that, so I don't know why we do it. So, but I mean, that's a crystal ball thing, but we do have that option. Yes.
Okay, any other comments or questions from council? Seeing nothing further, I'd like to take an opportunity to speak to it. So I will ask that Deputy Mayor take the chair so I can say a few words about the motion that's on the table. Deputy Mayor Nelson, you're officially the chair now. Thank you. Madam Clerk, you've got that recorded. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, madam.
This is something that I personally can't support, taking something to the county roads at this point in this way. I feel that there has been consultation done in the past. I feel that this type of decision will catch the public off guard, that there needs to be some sort of input. We know that there has been different stages and phases of consultation over the last decade or more, but there needs to be, like, what's changed other than we've had a new request come forward from a member of the community, and we have a new council, but the people aren't expecting us to be making this decision this evening, and I think it's a critical decision that impacts the entire township, whether you're in support of it or against it. And I think that it feels sneaky and underhanded to me to be coming to council at this point in time with very little discussion up until this point and making this move. So for that reason, without consultation, without discussion and feedback from our community, I can't support the motion as it sits right now. I too own a four-wheeler. I've said this before. I too have land that I use it on, private land, but I also own a trailer. I license that trailer. I put the four-wheeler on that trailer and I take my four-wheeler places so I can use it. And it's all insured and above board. And it's the same thing if someone is, buying a Sea-Doo or a boat. I don't expect that if I purchase any asset like a boat, that I'm going to do so without having a way to use that and to recreate. And you can say that about any sport, quite frankly. So I personally don't support going forward with this in this way, without the transparency that is really expected of us from our constituents, and without having some sort of dialogue to allow people to realize and know that this decision is happening in their backyards, in their neighborhoods, and through their neighborhoods. So for that reason, I won't be supporting the motion that's before us this evening. On that note, I will take back the chair. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor.
And I was going to call the vote, Councillor Watt, but
Thank
if
you.
you are.
No, just a quick comment, and I can see some of your points, not, I somewhat like Dave. We've had this come before with council, and we've had 25 people in here that came to speak about it, or they came to listen to what we wanted to say, or what, how, and why, and whatever. We didn't make a big advertisement, but it was just in one of our packages, and these people showed up. It's no different now, like they've got the same opportunity that everybody else has to look at our agenda ahead of time, see what's on it. There's been enough discussion around this is gonna come back up, but I think people know about it, and I think they just, they're ready for it. That's just my opinion, but I think everybody had a equal opportunity to see our agenda and say, hey, there's it, or the discussion come up in council. I don't think we're being sneaky or underhanded. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying you're not right, but I'm not saying I'm not right either. So just a comment.
Councillor Report.
Through Mayor Watson, just kind of an anecdotal comment to go along Councillor Watt's previous comments here. Since ORVs came up on a previous council meeting, and there was a discussion about allowing ORVs on township roads, a few people that live on my road contacted me for my thoughts. And I know a lot of people want them on the roads, but over 75% of the residents on my road have signed a petition asking the township to not allow them, including people that own ORVs. They just don't want them on the road. As Mayor Watson pointed out, she takes her ORV on a trailer and goes somewhere else. I think it's one of those cases where the 25% of people that do want them are quite vocal about wanting them, but the silent majority are silent, don't want them, and when you actually talk to them, they're very quick to sign a petition saying, we don't want them. And to go along with Mayor Watson's point, it does feel a little sneaky and underhanded to just pass this really quickly here on June 20th, and that's the end of it.
Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor Johnson, and Councillor Wiles, like.
Just one more comment. Again, with these ORVs, we're not talking about kids being out there. That's illegal. If they don't have a driver's license and if they don't have insurance and they're not legally legal on the roads, I don't have an issue with that. That's up to them to be charged, and the same thing as driving a vehicle, or the same thing as people don't like owning a cottage. They don't like boats going by. But that's part of owning a cottage, and that's part of putting up with that. People can also say, I don't like a car going by, but it's no different. It's actually each person's right, and the province has recognized throughout the province the rights of and it's not going to end. It's not going to end whatsoever. And if I look at it, I can literally drive up 28 highway. It's a busy highway, but I can literally drive up north of Absolute. I can drive up that highway beside millions of cars, and I do because my hunt camp's right there. And I use it to transverse and go to other roads. And I don't know, I've never heard of one single accident up there from responsible people. And most of these accidents that you hear about, if you look at it, most times it's kids or somebody that should not be, or alcohol related, or something. And it's like this, it doesn't matter what you have, you are going to have accidents. Cars, trucks, doesn't matter what your license, there's always going to be an accident. So I don't buy that when the province is saying, yes, you can actually, they changed the law now, but they give the option of turning around and saying, yeah, you council can change your mind and not put it on. I can drive a snowmobile. Snowmobile, I can tell you, is probably one of the most dangerous things. Have you ever got on a snowmobile and tried to steer going down the highway? But I can drive on it. Yeah, that's my comments.
Councillor Johnson, then Councillor.
I'm asking for the vote.
I'm sorry, sir?
I want to ask for the vote.
You're gonna call for the vote?
I vote for that.
I'm right, yeah, no, I'm good.
All right, and then I will ask that that vote be recorded.
See? Go ahead. No, I just want to make sure. Go ahead. Okay. Denver Ward Councillor, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Douro Ward Councillor, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor at large, how do you vote?
4.
Deputy Mayor, how do you vote?
4.
Mayor, how do you vote?
Opposed.
The motion passes.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving on to the rest of our agenda, Councillor Johnston, I know you said you had a prior engagement. Are you going to use this moment to excuse yourself from the chambers, or are you gonna stick around?
Well, I look at what's on, everything's important, but I don't think that there's too much more discussion on things. So I would like to leave, even though I'm late on, but I would like to leave. And if I'm leaving, I also want to remember everybody on the parade for July 1st in Douro. Keep that in mind. Want to put something in it.
Over there with a big smile on my car.
Awesome, thank you, Councillor Johnson. Okay, so we'll move on with the agenda then on to 10.1, update on county council
Mayor,
matters. Oh, yes.
Much like Mr. Councillor Johnson here, I have another engagement to as well.
Okay.
I believe that's still
And then there
just
were
a
three. And then there were 3, all right.
All up now.
Make sure they hold those commitments.
They're all jumping, they're all jumping. Yeah.
Where are you going, Jerry?
I've got priority.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm just used to the half-hour meeting time. It's 2 hours.
We'll make it in the notes that Councillor Johnson comes at the board leaving.
Yes, and clerk has that acknowledged. Mr. Hamilton?
Yes.
Are you asking for permission to leave too? So you don't need permission.
I'd like to speak for 10 seconds.
You're not on the agenda as a delegate, sir, but
Thank you, council, once in favor, voted in favor of the motion. I agree. HDM has had ATVs on the road for over 10 years, and there's less ATVs on the road now than there were. Because it's legal now. There's no fun on the roads, but it's legal.
all right, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, have a good night. Have a good night, thank you.
See you
Bye.
guys. See ya. Okay.
We don't have a clear house.
On to item 10.1, update on county council matters. Deputy Mayor Nelson, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a lot to report on county matters, but I know different construction projects throughout the county is in full swing. Like us, they're cutting the roadside mowing. I know our roadside mowing, I believe, has started as well. Anyways, I know lots of other activities are happening out on the roads, different projects, different stuff that they're doing. And not really a whole lot. We have a county council meeting coming up next Wednesday. And anyways, that's about it.
The motion to receive that, Councilor Webb?
We do have one question for me, please. Is the county responsible for the work that's going on from the Canal Bridge to TV Road, or is that city?
That's all
That's
city.
city, okay, all right, then I will withhold my comment on what we did.
Okay, but you will make a motion to receive.
I will
that
make a
report.
motion to receive the report with thanks.
And you'll second that.
Yeah, sure.
All in favor? That motion carries. We all have to put our hands up now. We've got no one. On to 11.2, or no, I'm sorry,
11.1.
correspondence, 11.1. County Lanark, a letter in support of Bill C-321.
Receive support.
Receiving support from Councilor Watt. Deputy Nelson, second that. All in favor? That carries. Item 11.2, the Luna Ontario say no. What will we do?
For that. Receive support of also.
Okay, Councilor Watt. Deputy Mayor Nelson. All in favor? That motion carries. We have 2 letters, which I meant to bump up on the agenda earlier, from regarding the delegation or in relation to the delegation that we had on Coast Landing. What would you like to do with those, council? Just,
Receive them and add them to the file.
yeah, I think that would be reasonable. Thank
Make
you.
that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? That carries. 11.4, City of Queen West request for new provincial regulations to prevent renovations.
I would like to make a motion to receive that.
Okay. Councilor Watt, all in favor? That motion carries. 11.5, Municipality of West Gray, resolution in support of co-location for Bell Hydro infrastructure.
Councilor Watt is receiving it. Deputy Nelson is seconding it. All in favor, that carries. And we've already approved the bylaw. No notices of motion, I'm assuming. Announcements, Councilor Johnston already did reference Canada Day Parade. Any other announcements? I am participating in a breakfast this Friday at Lakeville College School that's being hosted by Newport North Chamber of Commerce, myself, Mayor Amiot from North Wharfa, and Mayor Senis from Selwyn Township are there. I believe there are tickets still available, but I've also heard that it's sold out, or quite not sold out, but there's a lot of people coming. That's what.
May I ask a question on it, please? And it says that there's two different prices, one for
Members and
members
non-members.
and one's non-members. What are we taught, because are we classed as members being council? How does
So I believe that members, if you read, I can put you in touch with them. I believe.
I was gonna ask them when I called. I just thought it would come up tonight. I'd ask because, you know, the township is a member, I believe, so I didn't know whether that incorporated us as
I
a.
believe they actually sent an email out to councils, and maybe just county council offering free attendance.
Yes.
But I got an email from somebody, one of the organizers, suggesting that other councils would let the council know. So if you call an executive councilor, then I'm sure that they'll charge you accordingly. Double, they'll charge you double.
And I got a call.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
There we go.
Okay, no, that's good. Thank you.
I need some good answers for those questions. Any other announcements? Seeing nothing? No closed session. Confirming bylaw, moved by Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by Councilor Juan, all in favor, that carries. We do have a committee of the whole next Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. I hope somebody told the rest of council. Regular council on August 1st. So lastly, a motion to adjourn. Councilor Watt, Deputy Mayor Nelson, all in favor, that carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, staff, for sticking it out.
Yeah.